Hey guys, Peter here. Welcome back to another piano lesson. So in this lesson, we're going to kind of pick up where we left up from the first lesson. And if you haven't seen that yet, please go check it out. Especially if you're very beginning, you're going to want that first lesson to help facilitate this next lesson. Okay, so in the last lesson we kind of learned all of the notes on the white keys. We didn't quite get to the black keys, which is okay because we're going to cover that a little bit today. But we're also going to get into reading some music, okay, and teach you some basic rhythms in terms of in reading the music. You know, some quarter, half notes, and whole notes. And actually put some music up here so you can follow along as I play. And then once again, we're going to elaborate on the chords that we ended with from the last video. Okay? If you haven't done so already, please make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. Click the little notification bell so you get all the upcoming videos that get released. Also, make sure to please hit that like button. Let's get started. So, we learned all the notes on the keyboard. Let's apply that now to learning to read some music, okay? So first things first, how do we read music, right? First things first is we have what we call a staff, okay? And a staff, all a staff is a grouping of 5 lines that has 4 spaces in between, and in which to put little notes on. And notes are just pictures of music, okay? Now we're just going to talk about 2 of the main clefs that we have. There are other clefs that can be used, but for piano, we're just going to stick to the main 2, which is treble clef and bass clef. Okay, each of these 2 symbols are a little bit different, and because they are different, it gives the notes on the lines and the spaces a different order. So when you're reading in treble clef, it's going to be a different set of notes on each line in each space than when you are reading for bass clef. So they're different. So we're going to take some time to learn what some of the differences are. What some of the differences are. And we're not going to cover all of the staff, but I will put a link down below for you so that you can view all the different notes on each line in each space of each staff. Today, we're just going to kind of build on that first video lessons where we stuck everything into kind of this 5-finger position, the C major 5-fingered position, using from C, D, E, F, G. And what's that going to look like on staff paper, okay, with our treble and bass clef. Now, one thing I want to talk about a little bit before we get into that is a little bit of a thing called time signatures, okay? Time signatures tells us how many beats per measure. And we'll get into what a measure is when we start reading the music, okay? But we're going to talk about a couple, okay? Because I want you to see these, and because they're going to be written at the beginning of any piece of music that you read. We're just going to cover a couple of the basics. We're going to talk about 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 and what they mean. Let's start with 2/4. Okay, we have 2 on top and 4 on the bottom. Okay, what does that top number mean? That top number is how many beats per measure. So if we have 2 on the top, means we have 2 beats per measure. Okay, if we have 3 on the top, it means we have 3 beats per measure. And if we have 4 beats on the top, it means we have 4 beats. Now that can be any number, 5, 6, 7, 8. It still just means the same thing. How many beats are in each measure? Okay. Now we have also the bottom number. Now the bottom number is a little bit confusing. So the more you get into music, the more you learn about it. You'll kind of start to understand this number a little bit better. But we're only going to be talking about quarter notes as the furthest subdivision. So it's going to be the only one that we cover is with 4 on the bottom. Okay, so that bottom number tells us what note value is equal to one of those beats. Okay, and with that 4 being on the bottom, it stands for the quarter note. Okay, so when we have 2 on the top, 2 beats per measure, 4 means quarter, so there's going to be 2 quarter notes per measure. Okay, now we're going to see this because we're going to be dealing with something called 4/4. We're going to be dealing with 4 beats per measure with 4 beats per measure and the quarter note equal to 1 beat. So 4 quarter notes. Okay, so what is a quarter note? What are these notes? Okay, a quarter note is a note value that's equal to 1 beat of music. Now, if you listen to, I know everybody listens to music, a beat of music is just equal to however fast or slow the song. If I just play something, you can feel that pulse that I create, right? Da, 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 da. Okay, and that becomes the pulse, that pulse. A quarter note is equal to 1 of those pulses, okay? Again, hopefully you've seen that first video. I'm going to put up the 5 notes here. Our C, D, E, F, G with both hands, so we can kind of see what a quarter note looks like on paper, okay? Now, reading the music, it's very important. We have treble clef and we have bass clef, okay? We're going to start with the right hand first, so the higher notes or treble clef. And we're going to apply those 5 notes, that 5-finger position, C, D, E, F, and G, to that staff. Okay, and I'll write up the notes so you can see them there. C is going to be that note with that ledger line going through. That line going through that first note is what we call a ledger line. Now, this is a very, very important note because this note signifies, this note tells us where on the keyboard to play. This note with that line going through it is what we call middle C. Now I have a full-size 88 keyboard, so middle C is middle C for a piano, okay? Middle C is going to be the C closest to the middle, okay? Now, if you have maybe a shorter keyboard, just find the one that's closest to the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but when you're on a full-size piano, it's the C in the center. And if you're having trouble determining that, okay, if you remember back how to find C's, we're going to count from the 4th C from the bottom, and that gives us exactly where middle C is. So, C number 1, C number 2, C number 3, and C number 4. This is middle C, okay? And this is where our right hand is going to go with that ledger line. C, next note up, D, E, F, and then G being that second line, the top note of what I've written for treble clef. Now, if you need to take some time and study these, pause this and study them, okay? Very important that you understand the reading of these. And now in the bass clef, we have the same 5 notes, C, D, E, F, and G. Take the time, study these, pause it if you need to. Now, what I have written in front of us are what we call quarter notes. Now notice they're solid, okay? They're solid in the center and they have a stem pointing either up or a stem pointing down. Now the direction of the stem does not matter. What matters is how the note looks. Is it solid with a stem pointing up or pointing down? That makes it a quarter note. So it's equal to 1 pulse. Okay, if I kind of imagine this being the pulse, D, D, do, do, I'm going to play a note for each one of those taps. Dun, 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 dun. And I don't have a metronome going. We're not going to get into the metronome just yet, but know that it's just equal to 1 pulse. Whatever you set that pulse at is how fast it's going to go, okay? So let's go ahead and play through just our right hand as quarter notes. And again, we're dealing in 4/4 time, okay? So we're going to separate this measure, these notes into a group of 4. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when we get to G, we're going to just call that beat 1 for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, off. Can you hear that? Let's do that again. We're going to do that together now. Okay, here we go. Quarter notes from C up to G. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, off. Good. Let's do that with the left hand. Same 5 notes, right? C, D, E, F, G. You have the notes written there for you if you need a little bit of help. Here we go. Same thing. Quarter notes, that means 1 note per beat. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's it. All right. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is a half note. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the same example now, but now grouped all with half notes, okay? So it's still C through G. You can see that there. It's still the same 5 notes, but now we're doing half notes. What a half note means to do is you're going to play and hold for 2 beats. Listen to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, off. Notice I changed the pitch to 1, 2 every 2 beats. Let's try that together. Let's just do the right hand treble clef, even though we have both written. Let's just try the treble clef. Here we go. Right hand first. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, off. Okay, left hand will be the same thing. I have it written as half notes. So let's do that one real quick. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, off. Very good. Very good. Last but not least, for now, is we are going to do what we call whole notes. Okay, and whole notes are just open, no stem. Okay, you'll notice there's no stem. Whole note meaning that we hold the note for 4 beats. And for now, just in the interest of time, what we're going to do is I'm going to do hands together. You can practice them hands separately, but you're just going to hold it for 4. So what we're going to think, and go ahead and try to play along with me. Here we go. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. Okay, notice I held each note for 4 beats. Okay, very good. So we've seen quarter notes, we've seen half notes, and we've seen whole notes. Now let's kind of put this all together into a song. Okay. It's not really a song. It's just like a little exercise. But notice here, I wrote. Now we see what we call those bar lines. Okay, the bar lines are those lines that are in between that separate some of the notes into different groups. Okay, and if you notice, you have 4 quarter notes, 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have a divide. Then you have 2 half notes, which are equal to 2 beats apiece, which equal to 4. Then another bar line. Then 4 quarter notes, bar line, and then a whole note, which is equal to 4 beats. So those bar lines split each thing into called measures, and they're split into 4 beats per measure. This is a perfect example of what we call 4/4 time signature. Okay. Let's go ahead and give this a try, and I'll do it hands together. But if you wanna, actually, we'll do a hand separate. We'll do right hand first, okay, to kind of get the idea. Here we go. Right hand first, starting on middle C with that line. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. Very good. Notice that whole note you have to hold for feels like a long time, but it is full 4 beats, and so that's right. So let's do it at the left hand. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let go of that whole note. Remember, 4 beats there. Very good. Kind of building on what we did last time, where we walked up the scale, right, and then walked back down, but now putting it to a pulse, a time signature, because this is what we'll be reading in music. This is the actual notation that you'll see in music. Okay, and so now before we continue on, I want to practice some of these rhythms, because we kind of jumped right into the notes. Let's kind of back up and practice some rhythms, so that you guys have the tools that you can practice some of these on your own when you see them in music. So here we go. What we have in front of us is just we're we're just practicing rhythm. So everything's just on one line, and we're going to focus on quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes. What we are going to do is we are going to clap this rhythm. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do. When we have a quarter note, we're just going to clap. Okay? When we have a half note, because it's worth 2 beats, we're going to clap for the first beat and then shake. That makes sense? So imagine if we did 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay? And if we have a whole note, we're going to clap for the first beat and then hold for 2, 3, 4. So we're going to shake 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Hope that makes sense. If it didn't, just rewind it. We're going to go ahead and try this first example. Okay, we're starting off with some chord notes. And again, notice you see those bar lines. They're separating each thing into measures of 4 beats per measure. So we're going to count from 1 to 4 and then repeat as it goes. And let's go ahead and throw up the pulses in there so you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we go. From the beginning. We're going to try this together right away. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So, we went through the whole thing. If that was a little bit too difficult for you, just back up and practice and pause the music and try it yourself. Every quarter note, just clap. Every half note, clap and then shake. Okay? And again, we're counting from all the way to 4. So even if it's 2 beats, 1, 2, the next clap is still going to be on 3, and if it's held, it'll still be 4. So 1, let's say for instance, measure 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go on and practice one more example. Okay. Trying to get used to this. Counting. Here we go. You notice we start with the half notes. So we have the 1, 2. Let's try this one just a touch faster. Again, practicing our rhythm. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Having trouble with that still, just back it up. Okay. And practice that. Now, we're going to put it all together. The first one that we did was kind of like a little exercise, right? We just went up and then went down. We're going to try a couple exercises actually reading some music now. Okay. So we have some different notes kind of around. We have 4 measures. Okay. And they're in a different order. They're not just going up and down. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play along with you. We're going to start from the beginning. If you need to pause the video, now is the time to do so to kind of look through the notes before we start. But let's give it a shot. Again, pause it if you need to kind of go through them. I'm not going to write them up. I'll write them up afterwards. Here we go. Same thing. Notice our first note is starting on middle C. And then when it gets to the left hand, our first note is also starting on C. Here we go. A 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. Good, very good. Now notice from that, when it went from the second measure to the third measure, I didn't stop. I didn't pause, right? I just kept going from left to right. And you'll notice, too, the bar lines go all the way through. Okay, that means we're playing both hands, which would be not at the same time, but we're reading it all the way from left to right, as opposed to going right and then down to the left. We're going right, and then it transfers over to left. Okay, so we're reading all of them together, and that's why I just continued straight on. Right after that last E to the bottom, the low note C, just continued right on. Okay, very good. Let's do it one more time. This time I'll put the notes up so we can practice it together again. Here we go. Same thing. Ready, go. C, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. Very good. Okay. Let's go ahead and do one more. Take a look at this exercise. Pause it if you need to kind of learn where these are. Okay. Our first note is going to be that middle C. And let's take a look at the first note of our left hand and use that as our checkpoint. So if you haven't figured it out already, I'll give it to you. That first note of our left hand is going to be a G. Let's start from the beginning. Here we go. A 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Okay. Again, just practice these. It gave you kind of all the practice tools to get some basic reading just within that C position, right? And I think that's good. You can practice your rhythms with this episode, and you can practice the note reading. So practice that on your own. We're going to go ahead and get into some more notes on the keyboard, because so far we've only played with the white keys. Let's talk about some of the black keys and what they're called. Okay. A through G, hopefully you've remembered these already. These black keys are going to be what we call our sharp and flat notes. Okay, and how do we know what to call what? Okay, let me turn this on real quick. How do we know what to call what? Okay. We have a couple different types of notes. We have what we call naturals, which are all the white keys. And we have something called flats. And I'll put the symbol up so you can see it. What a flat means to do, and you can think about this as a flat tire. You're going to move down only one note. And when I mean note, I mean half step. And what is a half step? A half step is the very next note. The best way to look at this is to look at it from up on the top, because sometimes it's a little bit harder to see when you're going from here to here, like this. So let's say I asked you to play a D flat. We're going to find D, go ahead and play D, and the very next note is a black key. Right? So this note is what we call D flat. It's that note, but one note below it. So another example, G flat. Let's go to G and lower it by 1. G flat. Another example, E flat. Let's go to E and then lower it that one note. This is what we call an E flat. Now, a little bit of a trick. Let's say I ask you to play an F flat. I see this a lot. They play F and then they go, to the nearest black key. This is not correct. Remember, we're only moving one note down, one half step down. So F flat is actually another name for this note. E is called F flat. Okay, it's what we call enharmonics. We're not going to talk too much about it right now, but just think about it as like the words two, and two. T-O, T-O-O, T-W-O. They sound exactly the same to our ear, but they are spelled differently, and they're used in different circumstances. Okay, so this could also be called F flat. Same thing with sharps. Now, sharps mean we're going to go up or to the right of the key. So let's say I asked for a C sharp. I'm going to take C, and I'm going to move it to the direct right. I'm going to move it up one half step, and all of a sudden I have a C sharp. Okay, right now I'm on the black key. It doesn't have to be a black key, but it can be. So like another example would be G sharp. I'm going to take G. I'm going to raise it up one half step, and now I have G sharp. Okay, so practice this on your own. Try to find a couple of them, like A sharp. Where would A sharp be? Okay, I find A, I move up one. There it is. Say I said B sharp. Here's another trick one. B, I move up one note. Okay, an equivalent name for C is B sharp. Okay, so now, we kind of touched on that. Let's go ahead and get back into our chords just very, very briefly here. We're running kind of a little bit low on time. What I want to touch on is just a little bit about what we call inversions, okay? If you saw the first video, we did everything in what we call root position. Now, we didn't talk about it, but remember, we based everything on those skips, and we just kept that hand position and moved it up between, we did C, F, G, and A minor, A minor, G, F, and C. Now, what is an inversion? Shorthand, inversion just means same notes, different order. Okay, so I'm still going to have, let's say I was playing a C chord, C, E, and G. I'm going to take these same three notes and play them in a different order. So right now I have C on the bottom. What if I took the C and I moved it up here to the top? I keep the same two notes and I move C up here. Now, I've asked students, what chord is this? And they say, oh, it's some sort of E chord because E's on the bottom. But no, this is a C chord. And it's always important when you learn these chords, especially when we did them in skips, C, E, G, to just memorize them, C, E, G, so that when you see them in a different order, you don't get confused by it. Okay, let's move that again. G, C, I can put E on the top, and now I just have another inversion of C chord. Okay, and you use these inversions to play music that's more cohesive. It's more cohesive because it doesn't bounce around. If you play everything like we did last time, you notice you're bouncing around a lot between all these four chords. You have to really move up and down very far, but these inversions allow you to stay in one area of the keyboard. Okay, I'm going to give you one example of this, and then you can practice this on your own. Memorize the chord names and see if you can figure out some inversions for yourself. Okay, I'm going to give an example. So we're going to go from C to G. Okay, but notice in C and G I have one note in common, G. So instead of moving up that high, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to the G here, and now I need the other two notes, B and D. And look at, here's B and here's D. So now I've moved to a G chord without actually having to move very far. Okay? I go into a lot more detail in some of my videos that I have on my website, backtothebasics.com. Go check those out. You can learn some cool songs, actually, some good pop songs using these chords and inversions, and I go over those in more detail. I will also, in the next video, go over the chords in more detail with inversions. So yeah, be on the lookout for the next video. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe. Hit the little bell notification in the top so you get all notifications that I just posted a new video. And if you haven't, make sure you hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you guys next time.